Chapter 532. The second batch of explorers was about to depart. Su Len summoned Boulder back from Maple City and asked him to lead the explorers to the East Coast. Last night, Su Luen severely taught Hathaway a lesson and made her beg for mercy under his thunder spear. He went in and out 7 times and killed all of them. When Su Luen woke up the next day, there was a hubbub outside. Su Luen carefully removed several warm and fragrant bodies beside him. He simply washed and went out. Outside, Su Luen saw Boulder and the caravan of North Town coming back with him. Boulder had sent a batch of shipwrights from the Kingdom of Florence to North Town. Boulder brought back a lot of people. The construction of Maple City was still going on, so they couldn't transfer too many people. However, the caravan brought back a lot of slaves from the Kingdom of Florence. These slaves were chained up in groups of 10. They were thin and skinny, and their skin was a lot darker. They looked shorter than the people in North City. Where did you buy these slaves? They don't look like northerners. Su Len looked at the people in front of him and said. The manager of the caravan bowed slightly and said, Your Majesty, we received your message to recruit shipbuilders, so we immediately went to look for them. Thanks to you, we found these slaves in the slave market. They were slave shipbuilders sold by a company in the southern coastal countries, so we bought them all. These slave shipbuilders were owned by a noble family, but that noble family went bankrupt due to poor management, so they had to pay off their debts. Su Len nodded slightly and said, How many shipbuilders are there in total? The manager thought for a while and said, There are 117 shipbuilders in total. Apart from them, there are also about 600 ordinary slaves. They are all able-bodied laborers. There are also 30 boxes of tea leaves and 30 boxes of porcelain. They are all stored in the warehouse in the city. Well done. Su Len nodded with satisfaction. A caravan like this could bring 30,000 kinnar to Northgard City every time. The number of caravans in Northgard City had expanded to more than a dozen, trading with the southern kingdoms, the Desert Kingdom, and the Lorenza Kingdom. Boulder, I'll leave these slaves to you. Send them all to Deepwater City, Su Len said directly. Yes, Your Majesty. Boulder bowed. Su Len named the port that was being built in the east as Deepwater City. The sea level at the port was 8 meters, which made it a pretty good port. After this group of people was sent over, the construction of Deepwater City would accelerate. After dealing with the matter, he returned to the study and sat down. Su Len took out a map of the southern port city and a topographic map of the surroundings of Deepwater City from the bookshelf and began to compare them. It was also the first time that Su Len had seen such a port city. Therefore, when designing Deepwater City, they needed to gain some experience from those port cities in the south. As a powerful professional, he could easily control the muscles on his arms. Even if he didn't use any tools when drawing the design, the straight lines he drew were almost the same as using tools. 10 minutes later, a blueprint was completed. Su Len followed the layout of the southern port city and combined it with the topography of the east coast. The basic structure of the city was drawn on the blueprint, including the roads, residential areas, trade areas, warehouses, sentry towers, military camps, and so on. The most important part of the city was the port and shipyard. Trade was the most important thing in a port city, so the docks and warehouses were the most important. A large number of warehouses were built near the docks to make it convenient to store goods. The port had to be large, and they had to pay attention to the wind and waves. In fact, Su Len was considering whether to build a breakwater. Some things in this world were better than in his previous one, such as transforming nature, moving mountains, and filling the sea. It was not too difficult for wizards. Even if the hydrology of Deepwater City was not good, he could still build a deepwater port. Deepwater City was located on the southeast coast, so it had a lot of rain. The roads and sewers in the city had to be specially marked, especially the sewers. If they were to follow the standards of North Town City, they would easily cause water to accumulate. The distribution of toilets and sanitation also needed to be paid attention to. The problem with the sewers was simple. As long as the layout was reasonable and the sewers were dug deep, it would be fine. The main problem was the hardening of the roads. Port cities had a lot of rain, and if the roads were not hardened, they would become muddy, which would greatly affect the transportation of goods. Therefore, the roads in Deepwater City needed to be paved with stone slabs or mud-to-stone spells. Because of the trade problem, port cities had a lot of people. Caravans from all over the world would come here to trade, which put a lot of pressure on the sanitation of the city. At the same time, there was another problem: infectious diseases. Infectious diseases were frequent in this world, such as plague, cholera, and plagues. Once these diseases broke out, they would quickly spread. The soldiers in North Town City were fine because they were healthy and had strong immune systems. However, ordinary people were not. If an infectious disease broke out, it would definitely be a disaster. Although there were wizards in this world, they did not have a way to treat a large-scale plague. They could only quarantine it. Sulen clearly remembered that a plague broke out in the Sadran kingdom in the south a few decades ago. In just 2 months, it spread to the Genoa port in the west of the continent and then to the kingdom of Kerbal. In just a few months, it had swept across half of the continent. It was said that some small cities were turned into ghost towns. After designing the roads, Sulen began to design the other areas in the city. In addition to the roads in the city, they also needed to design a road that led directly to the port. This road would need at least 8 carriages to transport goods. At the same time, the land in the port area needed to be leveled, and the warehouses and berths for the ships needed to be designed. Sulen designed the port, the warehouses, and the berths according to the southern port cities. After all, they had been a port city for hundreds of years. The design of the port and the berths were very perfect. After the design was completed, he began to think about the wizards that would be sent to Deepwater City. A trading city like Deepwater City would not be safe if there were no wizards to guard it. Sulen planned to send Andre and some wizard apprentices. Andre had the blood of a water demon, so his fighting power in the sea would be enhanced. Of course, Sulen also needed to arrange a laboratory for him. There was no need to think about a wizard tower. Perhaps he could build a small wizard tower about 30 meters tall without a tower spirit. It would be equivalent to a high-grade laboratory. Chapter 533. The weather in the northern citadel was very good. The sun was shining brightly. Unknowingly, it was already the month of May. The gentle sunlight was very comfortable on the ground. Sulen had nothing to do today, so he took Hathaway, Alex, Karina, Chrissy, Phyllis, Xanthi, and his 2 personal maids for a picnic. Alex and Chrissy were barbecuing on the grass. Hathaway was chatting with Xanthi and Phyllis. Sulen was lying on Xanthi's soft thighs, taking a nap and enjoying the massage from her soft little hands. Karina was setting up the tableware, and the 2 maids were assisting everyone. Master, master. I'm done. Do you want to try it? It's delicious. Chrissy said, waving her arms. Sulen waved his hand. He didn't want to be a guinea pig. The barbecue smelled delicious, mainly because of the seasonings made by Frodo. Speaking of which, Frodo's seasonings were getting richer and richer. Even Sulen hadn't seen many of them before. It had to be said that when it came to enjoying life, if the halflings were second, they would be first. Sulen had made all the seasonings he knew in his previous life. Even if he couldn't find the same ones, he would find some that tasted similar. Master, do you want to try it? It's delicious. Chrissy didn't give up. She took the barbecue directly to Sulen. She looked at Sulen with her big eyes. After all, what bad intentions could a succubus have? Among the women in the northern citadel, Hathaway liked to study magic. When she had nothing to do, she would sit on the balcony and make a cup of tea and enjoy the sunshine. Chrissy liked to raise pets. Her three-headed dog was now the size of a calf. Alex liked to read books, not magic books, but fairy tales and travel books. Phyllis liked to make some snacks. Xanthi liked to follow Phyllis. Perhaps because they were both nobles, the two of them liked to have afternoon tea together. Karina often taught the drows all kinds of tricks. The two maids liked to eat sweets. Of course, they also liked to make delicious food. Sulen basically didn't care about their little hobbies. As the king of Beifeng Principality and the owner of this place, he was very easy to talk to. The aroma of barbecued meat filled the air. The little succubus happily raised the meat and handed it to Sulen, looking at him expectantly. Looking at Chris's expression, Sulen couldn't refuse it directly, so he took it and took a bite. It tastes good. Hee, it seems that I have a talent for cooking. The little succubus said happily. So you're using me as a guinea pig? Sulen pretended to be angry. He then reached out and knocked on Chris's head. Not bad. Let me try it too. Hathaway stretched and grabbed a skewer of barbecued meat to taste. It's a little overcooked. It's totally the seasoning for roasted Frodo. But it's the first time I can roast it like this. It's worth encouraging. A huge black shadow suddenly fell from the sky. Hathaway reacted quickly and instantly raised an energy shield around it. As soon as the shield was raised, a large cloud of dust and grass rushed over and was blocked by the shield. Onyxvia, you did it on purpose. Be careful, or I'll hang you up and beat you. Sulen looked at the huge creature that fell from the sky with disgust. It was the red dragon girl. With a flash of light, the red dragon's huge body disappeared in an instant and was replaced by a red-haired girl. It was Onyxvia. Master, I didn't do it on purpose. The little red dragon firmly refused to admit it and ran to Chris to ask for food. This red dragon only knew how to sleep all day long. Often, she would sleep for several days at a time. When she woke up, she would look for food everywhere. Usually, she was nowhere to be seen, so Sulen didn't even have time to ride her. As a mount, you sleep all day long and don't even carry your master. Don't you think that's very dereliction of duty? Sulen said to the little female dragon. At this time, Onyxvia bit the skewer of barbecued meat and gently stroked it in her mouth. The shiny skewer was pulled out. Her movements were very practiced, and she didn't care about her image at all. Master, I'm close to adulthood now. I need to rest and sleep to grow. How can you bear to let a young dragon like me work? Onyxvia said as she ate the skewer. Close to adulthood? Sulen was slightly taken aback. A dragon's adulthood didn't have to be 100 years. In fact, this was just a rough number. It depended on the dragon's nutrition and development. If they lived in an area with abundant elements and abundant food for a long time, they would enter adulthood a few years earlier. Yes. Master, I'm about to reach adulthood. Are you going to prepare a gift for me? Onyxvia said shamelessly. Sulen glanced at her and didn't say anything. Master, as a dragon who is about to reach adulthood, and the most powerful red dragon among the pentashade dragons, if I go out and meet other people, how can I have the nerve to say hello to them? Besides, this will weaken your reputation, won't it? Onyxvia said with a flattering face, but if she could hide the glimmer of gold coins in her eyes, the effect would be better. Sulen smiled and didn't say anything. Little female dragon, I'm afraid you don't know how much money you owe. The number of treasures in the floating space tower's treasury doesn't match up. Looking at Sulen's eyes, Onyxvia was quickly defeated, and then whispered, so stingy. You're so rich, but you're not willing to help a poor dragon like me. I'm so sad. After the picnic, Sulen returned to the study, and a guard hurried over. Your Majesty, according to the adventurer's report, something suddenly happened outside North City. What happened? Sulan's heart skipped a beat. The guard hesitated and said slowly, "Recently, adventurers often report that some strange magic beasts have appeared in the north of North City. They look a bit like ordinary beasts, but there are some changes in their appearance. Their eyes are red and they are very aggressive. They don't just attack humans, they don't even let their own kind go. At first, we didn't pay attention to this. We just thought it was a magic beast that had evolved and transformed. But later, we found that many adventurers reported that they had encountered such monsters, and then we discovered the abnormality. The number of these mutant monsters is no less than that of ordinary beasts. This is normal. The number of magic beasts is far less than that of ordinary beasts, but there is a large-scale transformation of beasts here. After discovering this situation, we sent people to investigate, and the data has been collected. Please take a look. Chapter 534. Sulan took a sheepskin scroll and opened it. It was a map of the northern city with some lines drawn on it. "Your Majesty, look at this. This is the pine forest north of the city. In the past month, we've found 5 mutated monsters in this forest, and the number is still rising. Further north, near the Sierra de Lotus, there are even more mutated monsters. We've been giving out quests for adventurers to find the cause, but we haven't found anything. The number of mutated monsters is still rising." Hearing the guard's report, Su Luan's expression turned serious. Although these mutated monsters hadn't attacked the city yet, if their numbers continued to increase, it wouldn't be long before these monsters overran the city, and even northern Garrison City would be affected. Sulan looked at the statistics and frowned. In just a month or two, the number of mutated monsters had reached 300. The number that hadn't been counted was probably even higher. The northern city's soldiers were strong, and they often went out to clean up the monsters. If it were any other noble's territory, they might not be able to hold on. "Is it because of the elemental tide?" Hathaway asked softly. Sulan put down the document and said uncertainly, "I'm not sure. Did something like this happen when the elemental tide came in the past? By the way, are these mutated monsters only in the northern city, or are they everywhere in the continent?" Sulan ordered the guard, "Send someone to ask around. See if Maple City and Mirror Lake City have seen these things." "Yes, Your Majesty." The guard bowed and left in a hurry. The elemental tide is getting stronger and stronger. The arrival of the elemental tide is a good thing for us, but it's also an opportunity for other species. This is most likely related to the elemental tide. By the way, are there any ancient ruins around here? Hathaway suddenly asked. "I don't know about that." Sulan looked at Hathaway strangely. "Why are you suddenly asking about this today? Many ancient ruins have some terrifying monsters sealed away. Some were used by the ancient arcana masters for research purposes, while others were sealed away because they were too dangerous and difficult to kill. Normally, these things don't have much of an effect. With the passage of time, many creatures will die of exhaustion in the seal. However, there are also some long-lived creatures or monsters with abilities similar to life hiding that will become active again due to the arrival of the elemental tide. If the ancient seal is damaged, it might not be able to suppress the monsters. If the monster's power leaks out, it might lead to a situation like this," Hathaway said as she adjusted her gold-rimmed glasses. Sulan looked rather awful. "I think that's very likely. After all, we've inherited a mysterious realm left by the ancient arcanists. Since there's a mysterious realm here, it's very likely that there's an ancient ruin here." "Oh right, Adept Locke and I also reinforced an ancient seal together." Sulan's face changed slightly. He immediately thought, "No, I need to arrange people to search the surroundings carefully. Also, ask the city hall to issue a mission to those adventurers." "Guards, guards!" Sulan yelled outside the door. Soon, 2 guards hurried in. "Your Majesty, what are your orders?" The 2 guards asked respectfully. Send someone to the city hall and ask them to search for the ruins around here. Also, issue a mission to those adventurers. Su Lin lowered his voice. Yes, Your Majesty. The two guards bowed and quickly left. Hathaway quietly watched Su Lin give out his orders. When he was done, she stood up and said, "How about I try using astrology?" "No, if you fail, you'll suffer a backlash." Su Lin rejected without thinking. Hathaway smiled. "It's fine. I'm a legendary wizard now. Even if I suffer a backlash, it won't do anything to me. Plus, I still have you, right?" "That won't do." Su Lin shook his head. Hathaway walked up to him and poked his head. "If we don't use astrology, how long will it take for those adventurers and soldiers to find it? Also, I've just done some research. The number of mutated monsters is constantly increasing. If we don't get rid of them as soon as possible, we'll be in big trouble." "Big trouble? What big trouble? Let's see how I'll deal with them." Su Lin snorted. "If you don't agree, I'll use it secretly. You'll be sad if I get hurt," Hathaway said when she saw Su Lin's reaction. "You?" Su Lin glared at Hathaway. He knew he had to agree, so he nodded. "All right, you can use astrology, but I have to be by your side. If there's any danger, you have to stop the spell immediately." "Okay." Hathaway agreed and pulled Su Lin to the astrology platform. "I've made a divination crystal on the astrology platform. It can reduce the damage caused by the backlash. Basically, there won't be any problems," Hathaway said as she tidied up her things. As a northern witch, she had mastered divination spells. The northern witches were proficient in divination spells, but Su Lin didn't let her use them because he was worried about Hathaway. Fate was a very strange thing, and so was the future. Although the divination spells could see some fragments of the future was not always the same. Using this kind of spell often would cause the line of fate to become chaotic. Just like a good swimmer who was addicted to cheating, using the divination spells recklessly would eventually lead to the fetters of fate. Then, it would be troublesome. At the top of the astrology platform, Hathaway's figure was quietly suspended in the air. Her elegant long hair was dancing in the wind, and a beautifully made crystal ball was suspended in front of her. At this time, a powerful wave of magic came from the crystal ball, and the smell of concentration incense in the whole room became stronger. Su Lin looked at Hathaway quietly and didn't dare to disturb her. She was now preparing for the divination ceremony. This kind of spell usually took a long time to prepare. The more difficult it was, the longer it would take. Some even required the cooperation of other wizards to hold a grand ceremony. Under the silver moonlight, Hathaway's figure seemed to be covered with a layer of silver gauze. The Lady of Silvermoon also mastered part of the divination priesthood, and many divination spells were performed with the help of the Lady of Silvermoon. At this time, Hathaway's figure suddenly trembled, and then she suddenly opened her eyes. There was a trace of blood at the corner of her mouth. Chapter 535. Asterisk crack. Asterisk a light sound was heard, and a crack appeared on the crystal ball that was floating in front of her. Then, with a bang, this high-grade magic item that was worth tens of thousands of gold coins was shattered into countless pieces. Following the shattering of the crystal ball, a strange and cold aura instantly appeared on the astrology platform. Indistinct howls echoed in the surroundings, and countless shadows appeared. The surrounding space distorted, and a powerful evil intent instantly appeared, pouncing towards Hathaway. At this moment, Sullen's body flashed, and he appeared beside Hathaway. He stretched out his arms and grabbed her slender waist. Then, a dazzling lightning shot out from his eyes. "Get lost." The entire astrology platform seemed to have been struck by a bolt of lightning, and the entire space lit up. In the next second, countless vengeful spirits wailed and scattered in all directions. Countless evil thoughts dissipated in an instant, and at the same time, the eerie feeling also dissipated. How are you? Are your injuries serious? Su Len landed with Hathaway in his arms. With a flash of light, a green energy full of life appeared in his hand, and it instantly merged with Hathaway's body. Physical healing. As the green energy merged with her body, Hathaway's injuries began to improve. This time, Hathaway's injuries were not serious. The main thing was that her spirit was damaged, and she looked a little sluggish. Fortunately, she was now a legendary wizard, and her soul was strong, so her injuries were not serious. Su Len let out a sigh of relief. I shouldn't have let you use this astrology spell. I didn't expect you to be injured. I'm fine. Hathaway shook her head. The spell had healed her injuries, but her spirit still needed to recover. She shook her head and said, I used the astrology spell to find the source of the mutated monsters. It was a little troublesome, but I still found it. I saw a ruin in the astrology spell. It should be an ancient ruin. Also, a world shrouded in blood and evil aura. That should be the spiritual light of the sealed monster. It didn't die. Instead, it used the power of the elemental tide to revive itself. The ancient formation that originally sealed it has been severely damaged. According to the predictions of astrology, it will completely break the seal in 2 months at most and come out again. We have to deal with it as soon as possible. Otherwise, the entire northern garrison city will be contaminated by this evil energy, and all our efforts will be in vain. A world shrouded in bloody light and evil aura? Could it be the evil god? Su Len was a little confused. Prophecy spells were very annoying. Sometimes, they wouldn't tell you the answer. Instead, they would give you some hints and let you guess. Therefore, wizards who were good at prophecy spells were also very good at solving puzzles. I remember the location of the ruins. It's about 30 miles northeast of the city, Hathaway continued. You should rest and recuperate first. I'll send someone to investigate the ruins, Su Len said directly. When the time comes, I'll need your help to deal with that thing. Don't worry. My injuries aren't serious this time. It just looks a little scary. In reality, more than 90% of the backlash was blocked by the crystal ball. Hathaway said, smiling. You still need to rest and recover. Su Len glared at her. All right. Don't be in a hurry to take action once you find the location. The energy of this monster is very radioactive. Those mutated beasts are actually ordinary beasts. They've only mutated after being contaminated by this monster's energy, Hathaway said. Also, don't let anyone below Tier 3 get close. Otherwise, they'll be infected by the monster's energy. I'll tell them to be careful, Su Len said, nodding. Emichim. My injuries will recover in about 2 days. When the time comes, we'll work together and get rid of this monster once and for all. Hathaway said, nodding. Okay. Su Len nodded in agreement. After learning the truth, Su Len was no longer in a hurry. However, he still needed to get rid of those mutated beasts first. The sun shone brightly as Su Len led a group of soldiers to the outskirts of northern Garrison City. Very quickly, he discovered a strange aura. Su Len had already cleared out the outskirts of northern Garrison City many times. It was a forbidden area for monsters. Normally, no monster would be willing to approach it. The strange aura that appeared now was most likely the work of a mutated beast. A flash of light enveloped Sullen's body. A second later, he appeared in a forest. A monster that looked like a ferocious wolf appeared before him. However, this ferocious wolf had some disgusting tumors on its back. One of the tumors even had a tentacle. Its originally ferocious fangs had become even more frightening. The ferocious wolf's eyes were blood red, and its aura became violent and chaotic. Moreover, there was also an aura of madness and death mixed in with its aura. Upon seeing Su Len, the ferocious wolf became even more violent. With a furious roar, it pounced on Su Len. It seems that this aura has completely affected its mind. Even its instincts have been distorted. Looking at the ferocious wolf that pounced on him, Su Len did not take it to heart. With his strength, even if he released a little bit of his aura, it would still be very dangerous to wild beasts, ferocious beasts, and even demonic beasts. As long as they sense danger, they would avoid it from afar. Why would they take the initiative to attack? Now that this ferocious wolf dared to attack him, it seemed that it had completely lost its mind. Before the ferocious wolf could get close to Su Len, it let out a shrill scream. Then, a bolt of lightning instantly struck the ferocious wolf. As the lightning flashed, the ferocious wolf fell directly to the ground. Then, it was turned into charcoal by the powerful lightning power. After the ferocious wolf died, the aura that originally surrounded the ferocious wolf was also swept away by the lightning. Huh! Su Len seemed to have discovered something. His figure suddenly disappeared. More than 10 kilometers away. The thick smell of blood filled the air. In the dark forest, a massacre seemed to have just ended. When Su Len's figure suddenly appeared here, a gust of wind suddenly blew. Then, a black shadow pounced on him. Bang! As soon as the black shadow got close to Su Len, it was kicked away. Its body flew backward at a faster speed than before. The huge force caused a crack to appear on the stone. However, the next moment, the black shadow in front of him pounced on him again. Its sharp claws drew a cold light. However, before it could attack Su Len, it was instantly hit by a bolt of lightning from the sky. Its entire body was paralyzed by the lightning and could not move. Claw demon. Su Len's eyes narrowed. He instantly recognized that the monster in front of him was a kind of abyssal demon. Chapter 536. Demon? Su Len said with a cold expression, now that something has happened, all sorts of monsters and serpents dare to come and cause trouble. Dominate demon. A light flashed, and the low-level demon's eyes instantly glazed over. After controlling the demon, Su Len casually cast a spell and forcibly read its recent memories. Su Len said with an ugly expression, the dimensional barrier has weakened. The dimensional barrier was a protective layer in the main material world, half-planes, and other planes. With this protective layer, the demons from the abyss would find it difficult to enter this world. The stronger the dimensional barrier, the more difficult it would be to enter. Even if the demons came to the main material world, their power would be suppressed. This invisible protective barrier mainly targeted the existence of the gods. If the energy level was too high, it would be naturally rejected when entering the material plane. This was also the main reason why the gods and demon lords could not descend into the world. In order to avoid this rule, most of the gods used divine power to enter the material plane, while the demons used soul projection. Su Len had just received news from the demon that the dimensional barrier of this world had begun to weaken. This was not good news. Neither the demons from the abyss nor the devils from Bator would give up the opportunity to harvest the soul crystals in the main material world. The arrival of the elemental tide brought a lot of benefits, but also a crisis. The world of demons belonged to the lower planes, including the abyss, Bator, and the dark abyss. It was usually rich in negative energy, but it was not too close to the death god's kingdom. The Styx River passed through all the lower planes and finally flowed into the death god's kingdom. In the multiverse, the worst thing demons and devils did was to steal souls from the Styx River. The water of the Styx River was not something that anyone could touch. If one dared to touch the water of the Styx River directly with their physical body, they would be eroded by the water of the Styx River. Even the gods did not dare to touch the water of the Styx River lightly. In the multiverse, only the death god could bathe in the water of the Styx River. The water of the Styx River had many strange abilities. The most frightening thing about it was that it could erase anyone's memories. This was because the water of the Styx River was originally used to cleanse souls. After erasing the memories of the soul, it could be reincarnated through the death god. Without the interference of the gods, the cycle of life and death was dominated by the origin sea. Souls would quickly melt after entering the origin sea, and the birth of life would absorb energy from the origin sea. At the same time, the source sea was the birthplace of all laws. When a life form ascended to legend, their soul would have a chance to approach the source sea to comprehend the laws. The origin sea was a special plane. No, it shouldn't be called a plane. It was a special space in the universe that was connected to all planes. Sorcerers believed that the origin sea was the source of life and energy in the multiverse. All souls of life, including the ancient gods, were born from the origin sea. This was the beginning and the end of the universe. At the same time, the source sea was also a very dangerous place. It was a place where life was reincarnated. All souls that entered this place would be completely crushed like a grinder. This reincarnation method was to crush all souls into countless tiny fragments and then reconstruct them randomly. The reincarnation presided over by the death god was much simpler. The death god would erase all the memories of the souls and send them back to reincarnation. Of course, because there were too many souls, the death god would also send most of them to the origin sea. The real task of the death god was to ensure the normal cycle of death and protect the souls from being stolen or damaged by others. Demons and devils would take the risk to enter the Styx River to steal souls, but now that the elemental tide had arrived and the spatial barrier of the material plane had weakened, those demons would not let go of such a good opportunity. Compared to stealing souls in the Styx River, the difficulty and danger of going to the material plane to collect souls were much lower. Sulen cleaned up the surroundings of his territory and returned to the astrology platform. He was waiting for Hathaway to recover, and at the same time, he was waiting for news about the ruins. The Northern Wilderness. In the wilderness, a group of vigilant adventurers was hurrying along. Carlos was wearing a fine chainmail and holding a curved sword in his hand, clearing the path in front. As the sharp curved sword was swung rapidly, the surrounding bushes and weeds were quickly cut down, clearing a barely passable path. Surprisingly, there were a few bald men in this group. Judging from their attire, they should be traveling monks. Since the establishment of the Northern Wilderness, many monks had traveled through this place to travel to the wilderness. Opening a path in this kind of wilderness was very tiring, and they had to be alert at all times. The people in charge of opening the path took turns. Soon, Carlos was replaced by another warrior. Carlos put away his weapon and took out a sheepskin scroll to check. Although paper was very popular now, some important documents were still written with sheepskin in the wilderness. Because of the harsh environment in the wilderness, paper was too easily damaged. "It should be around here," Carlos said as he flipped the scroll. The scroll was a topographic map of the Northern Wilderness. After Hathaway saw the ruins with her prophecy, Sulen had marked the general location of the ruins and some of the main features of the ruins and distributed it to the mercenaries who accepted the mission. "Stay alert. We're close to the ruins. The number of mutated monsters we've encountered along the way has obviously decreased, but don't be careless. I don't want to give your compensation to your wives." Don't worry, boss. We'll be careful." "Boss, I won't give you the chance." The others in the group all shouted. The originally gloomy group instantly became lively. After seeing the status of the group, Carlos secretly sighed in relief. Traveling for a long time in the wilderness would make people feel irritated and tired, but it seemed like the group was in good condition. "Look over there," someone exclaimed. When the others in the group looked up, they all exclaimed. Not far away, a severely weathered broken stone pillar appeared in the weeds. "Ruins. We found the ruins. We're rich. We're rich. I can consider retiring when I go back, buy a few acres of land, buy a manor, and become a manor owner." After that, the adventurers began to clear away the surrounding weeds and shrubs. As the weeds were cleared away, more and more ruins appeared before their eyes. There were broken stone pillars, heavily weathered statues, and stones that had long been indistinguishable. Everything here showed that this was a ruin that had existed for a long time. Chapter 537. Carlos looked around. Only a corner of the ruins in front of him could be seen, and most of it seemed to be hidden. There were bushes and lush trees all around. Other than the part they found, there were no other ruins. He had encountered this situation before. Some ruins were protected by a layer of magic, and only by breaking this layer of magic could they enter. It was best to have the help of a spellcaster, or they would not even be able to enter. Some ruins were also protected by magic, but it seemed that the magic had been damaged due to the passage of time or some other reason. These ruins would only appear at a specific time, and when the time passed, they would be covered by magic again. Some ruins were partially exposed, and the other parts were still covered by magic. Of course, most of the ruins were not protected by magic at all, but the valuable things in these ruins had been cleaned out by countless adventurers. There were also some that were buried and needed to be excavated. There were many such ruins in the northern wastelands and deserts, but they were not easy to find. Obviously, the outer layer of magic of the ruins in front of them was not completely destroyed. Carlos was a little disappointed. He had originally wanted to search the secret realm when he received the mission from the city hall. It should be known that the wizards would give a good reward if they sold the things in good condition in the secret realm. He did not pay much attention to the city hall's warning that the ruins were dangerous and that they would report it immediately after discovering it. In his opinion, the city hall wanted to scare them because they wanted the things in the ruins. As for the dangers in the ruins, these adventurers knew very well that as long as they were careful, there would not be any big problems. After all, the magic equipment here had basically lost its effectiveness after thousands of years. Be careful. A cry of alarm sounded. All of a sudden, a dense fog appeared in the surroundings and spread rapidly. In the fog, some black shadows quickly pounced on them. The sudden change caught these adventurers off guard, and a few of them were killed directly before they could react. It's a mutant monster, everyone be careful. Quick, get close. Be careful of their sneak attack. Under the cover of the fog, the mutant monsters quickly launched attacks, constantly attacking the adventurers. In a short time, the situation became very dangerous. Be careful, retreat. Carlos roared and rushed forward. The two scimitars in his hands exuded a chilling aura. He waved them like a windmill and slashed at the mutant monster. Blood flew everywhere as a howl sounded out. Following this, countless saber lights flashed out, and 10 or so gashes appeared on the mutated monster's body, and one of its claws was cut off. Carlos had no intention of letting it go. His figure flashed and rushed up again. A sharp blade light flashed, and the mutated monster's huge head was chopped off. Only then did Carlos breathe a sigh of relief. Even he could not sustain such a high-intensity outburst for a short period of time. Although he had successfully killed one of the mutated monsters, the situation he was facing did not improve at all. More and more mutated monsters were rushing over from the fog. Let's go. Seeing this, Carlos's expression changed greatly, and he immediately shouted for retreat. The surrounding adventurers did not hesitate and immediately retreated. Blazing sun style. A warrior monk clasped his hands together, and in the next second, a dazzling flame erupted from his body. A violent explosion sounded out, and the scorching flames were filled with a holy aura. A mutated monster was directly sent flying, and the flames continued to burn its body. Black blood slowly seeped out of its head and ears. Evidently, it was not going to survive. The surrounding fog also dispersed a little. Slash. Another warrior heavily slashed down, killing a mutated monster. Then, without taking a breather, he immediately rushed out. Charge! A dwarf covered in steel armor rode a strong male goat and rushed out, waving the axe in his hand. A few adventurers immediately followed. Expeditious steps. Gale potion. Seeing that the situation was urgent, Carlos directly opened a bottle of light red potion and had the dwarf gulp it down. A bitter taste instantly filled his mouth, and a powerful force instantly entered his body. Carlos's originally very fast speed once again rose to another level. The scimitar in his hand danced even faster, and the charging mutated monster was directly cut into 10 or so pieces. There were a lot of mutated monsters in the fog. They had a total of 18 people in this operation, including 2 warrior monks, a dwarf ram knight, 3 rogues, 2 rangers, and 5 warriors. Although the city hall indicated that the danger level of this mission was 5 stars, they did not take it to heart. Although these people were few, the whole team was made up of experienced adventurers. Even if they faced enemies more than 3 times their number, they could easily deal with them. But this time, the number of enemies was too much. You guys retreat first. I'll cover the rear. Another warrior monk saw that the situation was urgent. If they did not escape as soon as possible, they would probably be completely surrounded and killed here. Sunlight burst. Phoenix flame. A dazzling light burst out in an instant, and then infinite flames appeared from his body, instantly turning into a circle of flames that rushed in all directions. Wherever it passed, all the fog dissipated, and even the mutated monsters hiding in the fog were burned to ashes. The surrounding bushes and weeds were cleared in an instant. The figure of the warrior monk suddenly soared into the air, kicking out a series of afterimages in mid-air. Then, the gravel flew out like a cannonball. The chi energy attached to the gravel caused cracks to appear on the gravel tens of meters away. Although those mutated monsters were strong, several of them were killed in an instant under the warrior monk's attack, and a path was opened at once. Let's go! Seeing the passage that appeared, the surrounding adventurers did not hesitate at all. They waved their swords and rushed directly to the gap. In the face of crisis, these people burst out with powerful strength in an instant. Diamond body. After seeing everyone rushing up, the warrior monk did not dare to delay. Although the strength of a mutated monster was not strong, a large number of them could still exhaust him here. Wind step. The warrior monk shouted in a low voice, and his body was like a tornado, rushing out in an instant. The surrounding mutated monsters could not stop him at all. The warrior monk stepped on these mutated monsters with the tip of his foot. Let's go! The warrior monk's figure shot out from the crowd, and he said with a dignified expression, "Let's leave here first. Find a safe place to inform Northern Town City. The problem here is not something we can solve." Chapter 538. Carlos was very excited. Although the battle was short, they had suffered a lot of casualties. He had no time to regret it. He had to send the news back as soon as possible. His brothers had suffered a lot of casualties, and they needed a lot of money as compensation. The battle just now had caused quite a commotion. It was very likely that other adventurers would notice them. Whoever completed the quest first would get all the rewards. If they were late, they might not even get a single copper coin. We need to hurry. We can't let others get ahead of us, Carlos said as he rubbed his head. No matter what, we have to be the first to send the news back. We have suffered a lot this time. Many of our brothers have died. We need this money to send them back as compensation. This is the only thing we can do to help them. Boss, we know what to do, a warrior said. I won't say anything else. Let's go, Carlos said as he ran towards the northern city. The others looked at each other and followed closely behind. North Wind Tower. Sulen had resumed his daily routine. He would patrol the city or Maple City every day and draw some blueprints for the city. In the afternoon, he would read books and learn all kinds of magic knowledge. As a wizard, Sulen needed to learn a lot of knowledge. Luckily, he had the ability, Sage, which allowed him to learn very quickly. Otherwise, the knowledge would be enough to give him a headache. The construction of Maple City had been completed. It was now the gateway to the west of the Duchy of North Wind. All the caravans heading to the northern city would go through here. It was a lot safer for caravans to go through Maple City. With the existence of Maple City, the number of bandits and monsters in the wilderness had decreased a lot. At the same time, the road between Maple City and the northern city had been repaired, so it was a lot easier to travel. The road from Northern Town City to Maple City was one of the main roads in Northern Town City. It was more than 50 kilometers long and 4 meters wide. It was wide enough for 2 carriages to travel side by side. The entire road was paved with pebbles. The middle of the road was slightly arched. Camel beasts pulled stone rollers back and forth to grind the pebbles. Even on a rainy day, there would be no puddles or mud on the road. This road was already better than 99% of the roads in other countries. In order to repair this official road, Sulen had used more than 50,000 slaves of all kinds and spent half a year to complete it. This kind of official road was better than other countries in this era. Compared to his previous life, not to mention the main roads in the city, even the roads in the countryside could not compare. In addition to these, Sulen continued to accumulate all kinds of construction materials, preparing to send these things to Deepwater City. At the same time, the port in North Town City was being expanded. If the trade channel was opened, the small port in North Town City would not be enough. Sulen had people expand the port by 10 times and added several docks for loading and unloading goods. At the same time, the road leading to the port was being widened and repaired. Sulen attached great importance to this new city. It was likely to be another important source of income for North Town City. In addition to the docks at the port, the shipyard in North Town City also needed to be expanded. Sulen had moved part of the shipyard to Deepwater City, but there also needed to be a shipyard in North Town City. The shipyard in Deepwater City built seagoing ships. The requirements for the ships were very high, and the keel had to be strong. The shipyard in North Town City mainly built inland ships. There was a big difference between inland ships and seagoing ships. The most important thing was that inland ships had flat bottoms, while seagoing ships had V-shaped bottoms. Inland ships could carry more goods because of the flat bottoms, but they were less stable and could easily capsize in big waves. Of course, it was impossible for ships to encounter big waves like the ones in the sea. Seagoing ships had to sail in the sea, and the waves in the sea were completely incomparable to those in inland rivers. The mountain-like waves could easily overturn and smash inland ships. Therefore, in order to stabilize the ship, seagoing ships had to use V-shaped bottoms. At the same time, the ship had to be very strong. Otherwise, it would fall apart when the waves came. Under normal circumstances, seagoing ships would not enter inland rivers. Seagoing ships were too deep in the water, and inland rivers were too shallow. They could easily hit rocks if they were not careful. North Town City had been recruiting workers from Florence during this time, and they had a lot of craftsmen. Although a group was sent to Deepwater City, it was not difficult for the rest to build a shipyard. In addition to these things in North Town City, Sulen also needed to deal with things in the Secret Plane. Now, the Secret Plane had the Obsidian Factory, the Golem Factory, the Ecological Park, the Plantation Area, the Crystal Beast Breeding Area, the Central Square, under repair, the Residential Area, the Botanical Garden, with natural oaks, and so on. It would definitely need to be built in the future, and the location of the Secret Plane had to be planned. At the same time, Sulen also needed to think about how to move the Secret Plane to the floating city in the future and open up a half-plane. Milky Way. Check the structure of the energy transmission network of the Secret Plane. See if it meets the requirements and if there are any areas that can be optimized. Sulen put down the pen in his hand and looked at the dense underground energy transmission network in front of him. He fell into deep thought. The energy source of the secret plane was in the central area. There was a large elemental pool here, so there must be a perfect energy transmission pipeline to supply energy to other places. Efficiency must be considered in this design. If the energy transmission was too wasteful, it would put a burden on the elemental pool. As for the other elemental pool, it was responsible for supplying energy to the golem factory. Start calculating. A series of data streams appeared, and Milky Way started calculating the current energy transmission network of the secret plane. She also marked the location of the central crystal and made modifications to it. Knock, knock, knock. At this time, there was a rush of knocking on the door. Sulen frowned and opened the door to the astrology platform. Alex's excited voice came through. Sulen, news from the city hall. They found the ruins. A group of adventurers found the ruins you are looking for. There are a lot of mutant monsters around the ruins. We may be in for a tough battle. Mutant monsters. Sulen was shocked. He stopped Milky Way's calculations and asked, "You found the ancient ruin? How intact are the ruins?" "The adventurers haven't gone in yet. There are mutant monsters guarding outside the ruins. There is also a layer of magic outside the ruins that hasn't lost its effect. Only a small part of it has appeared outside. Tell the adventurers that the ruins they found are very damaged." Chapter 539. There's also magic protection. No wonder it hasn't been discovered for so long. It seems that there's still something in this ancient ruin. Sulen's eyes lit up when he heard that there was magic protection. If there was magic protection, it meant that no one had entered the ruin for thousands of years. It was likely that there were many things left behind by the ancient arcanists. If they could find some precious information, it would be a big gain. I don't need to tell you how valuable an undamaged ruin is. Let's go, Alex said impatiently. We still have to be careful. There's a powerful monster in there. Sulen waved his hand. He wasn't impulsive. Besides, many things in the unexcavated ancient ruins could be traced back to the era of the Arcane Empire. Hathaway was the one who had the deepest understanding of the Arcane Empire in Northtown City. It was necessary to take Hathaway with him. Okay. That's right, I also met 2 warrior monks this time. Alex suddenly recalled. Monks? Sulen was slightly stunned. What are monks doing in the city hall? They came with the adventurers who found the ruin. They said they wanted to see you, Alex said with a shrug. Sulen was also curious about the monks' arrival. When he heard that the monks came with the adventurers who found the ruin, he seemed to understand something. Monks were a very special profession. In the beginning, this profession was only found in the eastern continent. Later, after the sea route was opened, many people traveled to the eastern continent. This profession gradually spread to the western continent. Martial monks had mastered a type of transcendent power called qi. Although this power was not as powerful as magic, it had a deep impact on other professions. For example, the advanced professions of warriors, weapon masters, and sword masters were all influenced by monks. Among them, the sword master's signature move, Chi Chop, was a special application of Qi. Wizards were very interested in the meditation methods of the monks. After combining them with the meditation methods of the monks, the wizards' meditation methods had undergone a huge change. Druids were very interested in the monks' philosophy of the unity of man and nature, so they derived a kind of nature's heart. However, this was not the reason why Sulen paid special attention to monks. It was because they often suppressed powerful evil creatures. Monks had a special kind of power. Their spirit power was very strong. Usually, they would suppress ancient monsters in the monastery. Ancient evil creatures were very difficult to kill. Many of them were sealed, and martial monks were responsible for suppressing these monsters. It was said that if all of the ancient evil creatures suppressed by the monk were released, their power could possibly destroy the entire continent. Of course, the monks who could suppress these monsters couldn't be just anyone. They had to be legendary level monks. Part of a monk's power came from cultivation, while the other part came from receiving precepts. The more precepts a monk received, the more powerful they would be. These precepts were very strict, and the strength of a monk was directly related to the number of precepts they received. Under normal circumstances, ordinary monks would receive 2 major precepts and 4 or 5 minor precepts. Only ascetic monks would receive more precepts, and ascetics who were at a higher level than ascetic monks were even more powerful. Every year, many monks would participate in the ascetic test, but in the end, only a few passed. As for becoming an ascetic, it was even more pitiful. Many people couldn't stand the precepts of ascetics and broke them. In the end, they could only become ordinary monks. Let them in. Sulen agreed to meet these monks. Soon, 2 monks arrived at the astrology platform. The 2 monks wore shabby hemp clothes. The clothes were a little white, and their faces were solemn. Their arms and legs were exposed, and Sulen could clearly see that there were many old wounds on them. They wore tattered straw sandals, and their hands were full of thick calluses. "You are ascetics?" Seeing the 2 monks' attire, Sulen's eyes narrowed. "Yes, Your Highness." "Hello." The leading monk put his hands together and said, "I am Ming Su, and this is my junior brother Ming Tan. We are here for the monsters in the ruins." "You are going to suppress the monsters in the ruins?" Sulen asked. "Yes, Your Highness," Ming Su said. "Sorry, but I want to kill that monster." Sulen shook his head and said, "Kill that monster?" Ming Su was stunned for a moment, then said, "Your Highness, you should know that those monsters are difficult to deal with. They can't be killed by normal means. I am going to try. If it doesn't work, then we will talk about it." Sulen shook his head and said, "How could he let go of such a monster? This place was too close to the northern citadel, and he didn't feel safe sealing them here." Although Sulen rejected the 2 ascetics' request, he still invited them to go with him to the hidden realm. After all, they were 2 high-grade monks, and their combat strength was quite strong. When Hathaway recovered from her injuries, Sulen had been waiting for a long time. After Hathaway came out of seclusion, he immediately prepared to leave with his people. This time, the people of the northern citadel set off in groups. Sulen, Hathaway, Alex, Karina, and the 2 monks went directly to the astrology platform. With a flash of light, everyone came to a wasteland very close to the ruins. After coming here, Sulen clearly felt that something was different. Not far ahead, there was an area that was somewhat different from the real world. Although it looked similar, in his perception, it was like a layer of illusion. According to the external factors and the interference of the distorted energy, this should be a magic barrier. What he saw now should be the camouflage of a magic barrier. In Sulen's eyes, this camouflage was about 80% similar to the real world. Basically, many buildings were projected here. This barrier simulated the terrain and environment closest to the real world, which was more than 95% similar. There was also a layer of fog in the surroundings. With this layer of fog, this area looked even more real. After coming here, Sulen saw many monsters hiding in the fog. These were ordinary beasts and violent beasts that had mutated under the power of the hidden realm and became a new kind of monster. Mutated monster, challenge rating 7. Sulen even felt that there were many more powerful mutated monsters in the fog. These mutated monsters must have mutated under the power of the hidden realm and become stronger. Chapter 540. Mutated monsters were normal beasts and ferocious beasts that had mutated under the radiation of the secret realm. To be honest, Su Len could kill a monster of this level with one hand. However, it was still very dangerous for normal people. Moreover, there were too many of these monsters. Hathaway looked at the fog around them and frowned slightly. Then, she waved the magic staff in her hand and a ray of light flashed across her body. Dispel the fog. Powerful mana fluctuations instantly swept over, and the dense fog that had originally shrouded the surroundings quickly dissipated like snow. It only took a few breaths of time for the fog to completely dissipate. As the fog dissipated, the mutated monsters that were hiding in it were immediately exposed. Wild Wind Blade Dance. Alex flapped her wings twice and a gust of wind elemental energy flew out from her body. This wind elemental energy turned into a gust of wind in the blink of an eye. In the next second, dozens of wind blades spun and flew towards the mutated monsters. As the wind blades swept across the area, corpses were everywhere. All of the mutated monsters were cut into countless pieces. None of them could last more than 3 seconds. In just a few breaths, the mutated monsters around them were all wiped out. It's done. Let's go directly. Alex waved her hand and the wind blades that were wreaking havoc began to slowly dissipate. Soon, they turned into a gust of wind and blew away. Only the large number of corpses on the ground and the smell of blood in the air reminded everyone that this place was not safe. Su Len looked at the ruins not far away. There was a strange magic energy surrounding the ruins. It was the ancient ruins that they were looking for. Spatial ripples detected. Spatial ripples detected. The system notification rang in Sullen's ears. This is the power of the mystery lock. Hathaway's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. This secret realm is protected by a layer of mystery lock. You said this is a mystery lock. Then our mission this time? Su Len asked in surprise. As a part-time wizard, he naturally knew how powerful a mystery lock was. If this mystery lock was to stop them, they would have to spend a lot of time. Even dealing with the monsters here would be unpredictable. Hathaway, can you decipher this mystery lock? Su Len asked. Hathaway did not speak. Her eyes were fixed in front of her. Her eyes kept flashing with light. It was obvious that she was casting a spell to observe the mystery lock. Phew. After about half an hour, Hathaway let out a long sigh. The light on her body also slowly dissipated at this moment. How are you feeling? Do you want to have a rest? Surin stepped forward to support Hathaway. Hathaway shook her head slightly, excitement flashing in her eyes. No need. This is my first time seeing a mystery lock, I'm excited. I can't help but Su Len smiled. This is Northern Battlefront City. Since we found it, it's ours. You can do whatever you want with it. There's no need to rush. Hathaway shook her head and said, we won't be able to figure out anything about a legendary rune like the Enigma lock in a short time. Let's get rid of the monsters in this ruin first, then we can study it. Whether or not we can install the Enigma lock on our wizard tower depends on this Enigma lock. Speaking of which, we're in luck. Hathaway smiled. This mystery lock in front of us is not an offensive type. I just observed it briefly and found that it's used to suppress the things inside. This mystery lock is good for us. You're saying that this mystery lock is for the sealed monster in the mystery realm? Sullen's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. At the same time, he raised the danger level of the sealed monster to another level. A monster that made the ancient arcanists so cautious must be very powerful. Yes, the monster we're going to face this time might be something from the legends, Hathaway said seriously. You know, the ancient arcanists even dared to study the gods. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a demon lord sealed in here. A demon lord? That's even better. It's been sealed for thousands of years, and most of its strength must have been wiped out. With the suppression of the plane, it won't be too difficult to kill it completely. By then, the divinity on it will definitely satisfy us. Sulen smiled. I'm just giving an example. In fact, the probability of it being a demon lord is very small. If it's a demon lord's power radiation, it won't be this kind of mutated monster. It should have the characteristics of a demon, Hathaway explained. However, even if it's not a demon lord sealed in here, I still have to be extra careful. Don't worry. Sulen nodded and said in a deep voice. I won't joke with my life. Hathaway continued, the area covered by the mystery of this ancient ruin is not small. On the surface, it looks like it only covers the area in front of us. In fact, this place uses the same technology as the mysterious realm, spatial folding. I estimate that it's at least 30 square kilometers in size, or even bigger. The energy waves of this mystery are weak now. Maybe it doesn't have enough energy. Otherwise, it wouldn't be easy to find this place. This ruin is probably exposed because the mystery doesn't have enough energy and can't cover it completely. But that's still necessary. If it has enough energy, it won't be easy for us to get in, Hathaway said as they came to the ruins. I've observed it carefully just now. This mystery doesn't have any super long-range attack ability, nor does it have the ability to fight in the air. Its main ability is to suppress the sealed monster, and its secondary ability is to protect, as well as some spatial folding and camouflage. Now that this mystery doesn't have enough energy, even its defense and camouflage effects are about to disappear. Under normal circumstances, the challenge rating of a mystery was 30+. Of course, this was based on the premise that it had enough energy and was maintained well on a daily basis. The mystery in front of them didn't even have enough energy, let alone daily maintenance. However, the mystery still had a terminal defense system. As long as the mystery was still in operation, there would be a mechanical body as the final defense. Thankfully, the main function of this puzzle lock was to deal with the sealed monster. According to the priority order on the puzzle lock, when they appeared together with the sealed monster, the puzzle lock had to prioritize attacking that monster. Only after the sealed monster was dealt with would it attack them. This way, as long as they were careful, the mystery could be of help to them. Of course, considering the current state of the mystery, the help it could provide was limited. Where do we go in? Sulen asked. Wait a minute, I'm looking for the weakest point of the mystery, Hathaway said. Chapter 541. Hathaway took out her wand and chanted a spell. A powerful magic energy slowly appeared. Sulen, Alex, and Karina stood not far away and waited quietly. The magic energy around them quickly gathered. Under Hathaway's control, the powerful energy slowly merged into the mystery lock outside the ruins. A dazzling light flashed, and a spatial crack slowly appeared and expanded. Soon, an exit was forcibly opened in the area around the mystery lock. A cold wind blew, and the negative energy in the surroundings instantly became several times denser. Obviously, the radiation of the monster's power was very serious. Such dense negative energy. There won't be any undead, right? I don't know, but let's go in first. Hathaway said as she stabilized the spatial gate. Sulen stepped into the spatial gate first, and the others followed closely behind. After everyone entered, Hathaway dispersed the spell, and the spatial gate quickly shrank. In the blink of an eye, the mystery lock returned to its original state. After entering the ruins, the surroundings were in ruins. There was a rotten smell in the air, and there were some vague figures floating around in the distance. Those were ghosts. Some monsters in the wilderness had died and turned into wandering ghosts. They were attracted by the dense negative energy here. Sulen frowned. His body flickered, and a surge of lightning energy gushed out from his body. A series of crackling sounds rang out, and the negative energy in the surroundings was instantly swept away. Dispel the undead. Hathaway waved her wand, and a ray of light instantly spread out from her body. Wherever it passed, the negative energy was quickly dispelled. Even the ghosts screamed and disappeared, leaving behind a thumb-sized soul crystal. After dispelling the surrounding undead and fog, a strange building with an ancient style appeared before them. This was a building complex with a completely different style from the current one. All of the buildings were tall and majestic, looking extraordinary. Moreover, there were special magic patterns on the eaves. Metal spears protruded from the rooftops, each embedded with a crystal ball. Magic towers stood in the distance, but due to the lack of energy, the magic light on them had been extinguished. Even further away, there was a magnificent palace. The magic civilization of the ancient arcanists was very strong, and they had completely solved the problem of basic material life. Moreover, they had entered the interstellar era, so this kind of magnificent palace was very common. Many of these buildings were enchanted with hardening spells when they were built. After thousands of years, most of these buildings were still intact. "Looks like we're in luck," Sulan said happily when he saw the well-preserved buildings. "What's that?" Alex suddenly said. Sulan turned around and saw a stone tablet as tall as a person. There seemed to be many words carved on it. After seeing the stone tablet, everyone hurried over to take a look. This is the language of the ancient arcanists. Ancient Netherese. Hathaway said after identifying it. Ferris Laboratory, the Wisdom Tower in the north, the Eye of Anaris. Laboratory? Sulan frowned. This didn't seem to be an ordinary ruin. Sulan and Hathaway didn't delay and continued to walk into the ruin. Crack. Sulan immediately stopped and looked around. Soon, there was a continuous cracking sound. Sulan found the source of the sound. It was coming from under the soil in front of them. Under the soil? Sulan, who was rich in battle experience, immediately knew what it was. He said to the girls beside him, "Be careful, there are undead below. They smell the scent of living people on us." There was a flash of light on their bodies, and they directly used fly to fly into the air. As soon as they flew, the originally flat ground around them suddenly arched up, quickly forming small graves. Then the graves broke, and skeletons crawled out from the ground. Skeletal undead. These skeletal undead were different from ordinary undead. They were about 2 meters tall, and their bones had changed from the pale white of ordinary skeletons to gray. There was also a metallic luster on them. The bones in their arms had been twisted and mutated, turning into sharp bone blades. At a glance, one could tell that these were dangerous monsters. Skeletal Undead Challenge Level 11-inch Undead Intimidate. Flaming Storm. The skeletal undead that had just appeared suddenly became stiff and couldn't move. Then, a powerful fire element rose up, and countless flames like a storm engulfed all the skeletal undead. The flames burned, and the undead's aura constantly emitted from the skeletal undead, which then sizzled with the surrounding flames. Soon, the raging flame storm dissipated, and all the skeletal undead disappeared, leaving behind a pile of ash on the ground. All the skeletal undead had been thoroughly purified. After a simple sweep of the battlefield, the skeletal undead were poor. It could be said that more than 90% of the undead were poor. Su Luan only found some soul crystals among the ashes. After cleaning up the battlefield, Su Len and the others walked into the ruins again. Soon, they arrived near a dilapidated building. This was already the periphery of the ruins, and there were many dilapidated buildings nearby. Su Len came to a room and gently pushed the door. As soon as he touched the door, it turned into ashes. Cough cough. Sullen's body flashed, and a protective shield rose, blocking all the dust. When the dust dissipated, he entered the room, but he was soon disappointed. This was not an important place. There was no magic protection around, and the things inside had long decayed after thousands of years. There was nothing valuable. The group spread out and searched these rooms. Only Alex was lucky enough to find a few magic gems, and then nothing else. After confirming that there was nothing else, the group continued to search the ruins. This ruin was very dilapidated, and most of the things had completely decayed. Only a few things were still preserved. As they continued to go deeper, Sulen came to the wizard tower at the outermost edge. Seeing the wizard tower in front of him, Sulen's heart was burning. These wizard towers should be auxiliary towers of the central wizard tower, about 50 meters tall. This was a common method used by ancient arcanists. After building a main tower, they would build auxiliary towers around it. The auxiliary towers were usually used as energy nodes. They did not have an independent energy network, and they were attached to the energy network of the main tower. Under normal circumstances, they were the residences of arcanists' apprentices, disciples, and followers, and areas where they did experiments. They had part of the function of the main wizard tower. Chapter 542. There's no energy here, Hathaway said as she looked at the wizard tower in front of her. That is to say, more than 90% of the defense facilities inside, including the runic array, have stopped working. Isn't that better? It saves us a lot of trouble, Sulen said with a smile. Let's go in and have a look. Everyone cast a protective spell, and then Sulen stepped in first. No one had come to this wizard tower for thousands of years. As soon as the door was pushed open, a thick layer of dust was stirred up. Sulen frowned. A gust of wind blew in through the door, and after a few seconds, it flew out of the door with a lot of dust. Sulen entered the wizard tower. Because there was no energy, the wizard tower was dark. Sulen snapped his fingers, and a soft ball of light appeared, illuminating the whole space. The hall of the wizard tower looked dilapidated, but from the dim decorations and rotten furniture, one could still see how luxurious it used to be. The crystal chandelier in the hall had been smashed to the ground, and the carpet under their feet had decayed into a black mass. Many glassware had been broken, and the inlaid gold foil had lost its luster. It seemed to have no value at all. Sulen didn't stay here for long. There was basically nothing to be gained in the hall. He simply identified the direction and walked upstairs. The second floor of the wizard tower was a rest area. Several people searched different rooms, but they didn't find anything valuable except decayed things. The wizards who originally lived here seemed to have left in a hurry. The room looked very messy, but the valuable items had been taken away. Several people searched, but except for some arcane gold coins and a few magic props that had lost their magic power, there was nothing else. Sulen continued to search the upper floor of the wizard tower, and soon the group came to the top of the wizard tower. As soon as they arrived, Sulen's body slightly stagnated, and then he recovered. The scene in front of him surprised him. At the top of the wizard tower was a laboratory. Although thousands of years had passed, it could still be seen that this was a high-end alchemy laboratory. There was a wide test bench and a dazzling array of glassware. Although there was a thick layer of dust, it could still be seen that they were well preserved. In the middle of the laboratory, there was a round cover. The cover looked like a glass cover. It was covered with dust, but they could still see what was inside. In the middle of the glass cover was a table that looked like an operating table. On this table was a tall skeleton. The skeleton's limbs and neck were all locked by metal shackles. This skeleton was not human. It had sharp fangs, thick bones, and horns on its head like a cow's, but much bigger than a cow's horns. Its two arms looked like a pair of scorpion's pincers, and there were two human-like arms on its chest. Its legs were thick and powerful, similar to the joints of cows and horses. There were 3 sharp toes on each foot, and there was a pair of bone wings on both sides of the spine. Sulen recognized the type of skeleton in front of him at a glance. Not long ago, he had seen many in the abyss. The skeleton in front of him was a demon, and it was a high-grade demon. Judging from the characteristics of its body, it was likely to be a Glabrezu. It was a type of hide demon with a challenge rating of level 16 and above. It was a beguiler. It had violet eyes and dark brown and black skin. This type of demon was about 18 feet tall and weighed about 5,500 pounds. Although this type of demon was powerful, it preferred to deceive rather than fight head-on. Of course, once the deceit failed or was exposed, this kind of demon would fly into a rage out of humiliation and directly launch a fierce attack. This kind of demon could perform a wish spell for a mortal once, so they often used this ability to fulfill any wish of a mortal. However, the price was often extremely high, and of course, the result of this wish would not be too good. Compared to other demons, Glabrezu were experts in deception and lying. They would use illusion to hide their true appearance and use all kinds of lies and tricks to trick people. This demon was like a bailer, and it was often used as a commander in the demon army. The master of this wizard tower is not simple. A gust of wind element flew by, and the dust on the glass cover was blown away. The situation inside was completely exposed. A Glabrezu. This may be the only Glabrezu I've seen that was starved to death. Sulan looked at the skeleton in front of him and said with a smile. It may also be the longest-lived Glabrezu. Hathaway joked. Although demons usually had a lifespan of thousands of years, so far, there was no demon in the multiverse that died of old age. This should be a demon that was caught or summoned by the master of the wizard tower, and then forcibly imprisoned here for research. Hathaway stepped forward and looked at the demon in the glass cover. It is said that in the era of the Arcane Empire, the Arcanists even occupied a few layers of the abyss and turned them into their colonies. Maybe this demon was caught and sold here. But no matter what, this shows that the ruins we are in now are very dangerous. Hathaway, can you open this glass cover? Sulan reached out and knocked on the glass cover twice. The glass cover made a knocking sound. The quality of the cover was very good, and it was used by the Arcanists to imprison demons. One could imagine how strong this cover was. Let me look for it. Hathaway looked around for a while and finally found an open button on the experiment table, but after pressing it, the glass cover did not open. Looks like it's not this button. After waiting for a while and nothing happened, Alex shrugged and said, "No, the energy here has long been exhausted, so even if there is an open button, the cover will not open." Sulan observed in front of the glass cover for a while and then a flash of light flashed on his body. He reached out and slightly exerted force on the glass cover, and a squeaking mechanical sound was heard. This sound was like the sound of a door shaft that had not been lubricated for decades. It was hoarse and unpleasant. Sulan slowly lifted the glass cover in the squeaking sound. With a click, the glass cover was completely opened. Sulan came to the operation table and picked up a demon skeleton to check. It's useless. After a while, Sulan threw away the demon skeleton in his hand with disappointment. It's been too long. The magic on these bones has completely dissipated, and they have become ordinary bones. There is no use at all. Chapter 543. The body of a high-grade demon was a precious magic material. Although it was a pity that the materials in front of them had lost their effect, there was still one thing that was not damaged, which was the operation table and the glass cover that trapped the demon. These two things could suppress a high-grade demon like the Glabrezu until it starved to death. One could imagine how sturdy and powerful it was. It was great for imprisoning enemies or something similar. This thing is not bad. Let's take it back. Sulan knocked on the metal table and said. Next, everyone turned the entire laboratory upside down. Other than a well-preserved experiment record, the only things left were the experimental equipment. The experiment record was a relatively important thing. The paper used was processed parchment. This kind of parchment was expensive and could be stored for a long time. It was a very good recording material. A research report was recorded on it. Research report on the body structure, resistance, and bloodline of the Glabrezu. It recorded detailed information about the Glabrezu, as well as their weaknesses, preferences, body structure diagram, blood, and so on. Looking at the research report, Sulen looked at the demon that had turned into a skeleton with pity. What a good comrade. He used his life to provide us with such detailed experiment data. You are like a candle, lighting yourself up to illuminate others, paving the way for the research of spells. After spending some time carefully removing the binding table and the glass cover, Sulen and the others continued to leave the wizard tower. Sulen, look over there. As soon as they left the wizard tower, Karina suddenly pointed at a patch of plants in the darkness not far away and said, "Those plants look a bit strange." Plants? Sulen's heart skipped a beat. He turned around and looked. The plants that grew in this place were usually magical plants. It was very likely that the ancient arcanists had left behind a herb field. The light spell dispelled the darkness, and the plants gradually became visible. They looked a bit familiar. They looked like piranha flowers, but unlike piranha flowers, they looked like they had been pruned. These magical plants grew in fixed areas, giving Sulen the feeling that they were in the back garden of a villa. After approaching, Sulen's eyes lit up. There were still many fruits hanging on these magical plants. It was obvious that they had ripened and no one had picked them yet. Since he had encountered them, Sulen was naturally not going to let them go. Sensing the approach of a living creature, the man-eating flowers awoke from their slumber. However, Hathaway immediately cast hypnosis on them, causing them to fall asleep once more. The fruits of the man-eating flowers could be used to concoct life potions. The fruits before her were enough to concoct a dozen or so bottles. Ancient arcanists liked to plant carnivorous plants such as flesh thorns, man-eating flowers, and magic willows at the borders of their manors or wizard towers. They would kill any animals or humans that trespassed here. After collecting the fruits, the group once again ventured into the depths of the ruins. The path beneath their feet was filled with cracks, and many places were severely damaged. However, they could vaguely see that these paths were more than 10 meters wide. The buildings on both sides of the road were not spared either. All the well-preserved buildings were cleaned up. Although they didn't find anything too precious, the harvest was still good. Soon, the group arrived in front of the tall wizard tower in the center of the secret realm. The wizard tower in front of them was more than 150 meters high, and its whole body was black and brown. The entire wizard tower was built entirely with obsidian, and it was also blessed with hardening magic. Such a wizard tower was completely designed according to the standards of a floating space tower. Seeing this wizard tower, everyone's eyes were burning with passion. Under normal circumstances, this was the most important and easiest place to obtain precious information or items in the entire ruins. However, in the face of the treasure trove in front of him, Sulen did not act rashly. This was because this was the only wizard tower in the entire secret realm that could still function normally. At the same time, the core of the layer of mystery outside the ruins was also here. Can Hathaway crack it? Sulen asked in a low voice. Hathaway's eyes were fixed on the wizard tower in front of her. If there is enough energy here, it's basically impossible to break it by force. In this situation, it's naturally not a problem for me. Just wait a moment. Soon, Hathaway's body flashed, and a ray of light was instantly stimulated from her body, instantly hitting the layer of energy barrier outside the wizard tower. The originally dim energy barrier flickered quickly a few times, and a hole was quickly broken. Advanced Dispel Magic. At the moment when the energy barrier was broken, Sulen immediately flew in. At the same time, at the top of the wizard tower, a purple magic crystal flickered slightly, and then a window on the wizard tower suddenly opened, and then a magic energy construct was activated. The red light in its eyes lit up, and this was obviously a special magic energy construct at the legendary level, and it was quickly activated. This golem puppet's appearance was bright silver, and there were many beautiful runes on it. There were many amethysts on its body structure, but before it was completely activated, Su Lin threw a maze spell over, and the golem puppet that was activating disappeared in an instant. The maze spell was very effective in trapping people. As long as it did not pass the test, it would be forcibly transmitted to a different dimension space maze, and could only return through the maze, or wait until the spell expired. Under normal circumstances, the higher the intelligence, the faster the return, but for the Tauren, this spell was ineffective. After dealing with this legendary golem, the others followed in. Sullen's figure rushed in quickly. They had to save time and seize the control center of the wizard tower as quickly as possible. An energy barrier appeared on the surface of his body, followed by a few flashes of light. Su Lin did not slow down, and quickly rushed toward the wizard. Intruder detected. Activate the mystery protection. Activate the defense form. Activate the golem puppet. A mechanical sound rang out, followed by a series of energy beams filled with the aura of death quickly flew toward Su Lin, and then 3 golem puppets walked out of the door. Lightning Spear. Three lightning bolts instantly appeared in mid-air, and in the next second, these lightning bolts turned into 3 spears completely composed of lightning energy. The lightning flashed and instantly hit the golem puppets. These 3 golem puppets that had been sealed for a long time trembled violently, and then suddenly stopped. Good luck, there is really no energy here, these golem puppets can't even repair themselves. This ruin had been sealed for thousands of years, and it lacked energy to maintain it. It was a miracle that these golem puppets could still move, and there was no hope for them to perform better. Chapter 544. Once Su Lin entered the main wizard tower, he needed to race against time. Due to the lack of energy in other parts of the ruins, all kinds of protective spells and golems had been shut down. However, as the most important wizard tower in the ruins, all the energy would be supplied here first. Sullen's actions would make the wizard tower's spirit think that the wizard tower was invaded. The wizard tower's combat mode would be activated, and the golems in the wizard tower would be awakened. This was not good news for Su Lin. How many golems were there in a wizard tower? This was directly proportional to the wealth of the wizard tower's owner. Just like the wizard tower in the ruins, the entire ruins belonged to him. With such a large secret realm, it was obvious that the owner of this wizard tower was very rich. Su Lin would not be surprised if there was an entire golem legion sealed in his wizard tower. Many wizards were otakus. They would accumulate all kinds of resources like hamsters and then make all kinds of items. The number of golems would also increase over time. If you were fighting with others, having an golem legion would be very comfortable. However, if you were facing an golem legion, trust me, run away as soon as possible. After Su Lin rushed in, the wizard tower's defense system had been activated. Although there were only a few golems now, as long as they were given a little time, the golems sealed in the wizard tower would soon rush over in large numbers. At that time, they would have to face hundreds of golems of all kinds. With so many golems attacking together, even a legendary master would have to flee. Fortunately, the space in the wizard tower was limited, and to save energy, most of the golems in the wizard tower were in a state of hibernation. As long as Su Lin was fast enough, he could shut down the control center in the wizard tower or take control by force before those golems were all activated. Lightning spears flew out from Sullen's hands and instantly hit those golems that had just been activated. The situation was slightly better than Su Lin had imagined. Due to the lack of energy, the golems in the wizard tower were in a state of hibernation. This state could minimize energy consumption. However, the lack of energy maintenance also caused the structure of these golems to age. Thousands of years had passed, and apart from some precious magic materials, the rest of the magic materials would more or less have some problems. When these golems were struck by the lightning spears, the already fragile components of the golems were easily destroyed by the powerful lightning power. Hathaway, Alex, and Karina followed closely behind Sulen. They weren't idle either. Sometimes, when Sulen couldn't deal with a new golem in time, they would immediately attack it with spells. One after another, the steel golems were awakened and then quickly destroyed by the spells. Sulen and the others were very fast. As high-grade wizards, they had all mastered combat spellcasting. They could cast spells while moving quickly without worrying about being interrupted. Even the weaker ones, Alex and Karina, were sorcerers. "Alright, ladies, don't completely destroy these golems." Sulen couldn't help but exclaim as he watched them cast disintegration and turn the steel golems into piles of scrap metal. "These are our spoils of war. After we occupy this place, these golems can still be used after some repairs. After using disintegration, these things will become scrap metal." "Alex, you wastrel." Seeing another steel golem being hit by a ray of light and turned into a pile of scrap metal, Sulen reached out and knocked Alex's head. Sorry, Sulen, I'm used to it." Alex laughed. "Alright, be careful next time." Sulen casually cast a chain of lightning and destroyed a golem that had just appeared. Although he hadn't completely occupied this place, Sulen already saw it as his own. "Host, please pay attention. Domain energy fluctuations detected." A powerful energy instantly spread out from the wizard tower. Sulen only felt that the originally smooth spells had become jerky, as if he had fallen into a quagmire in an instant. "This is energy confinement. The enigma has been activated." Sulen's eyes lit up. It seemed that the tower spirit had sensed the danger. Energy confinement was an ability of the enigma, but it required a lot of energy to use this ability. For a wizard tower that lacked energy, the tower spirit would not activate this ability unless it was absolutely necessary. A ray of lightning flashed, and a powerful lightning energy was instantly released from Sulen's body. A domain that was not inferior to before spread out from his body, and the few women who were originally imprisoned instantly regained control of their magic. After activating the domain, Sulen's power was even more powerful. Soon, the group of people arrived in front of the wizard tower's gate. This gate was made of a silver-white metal. Although it had been there for thousands of years, it didn't seem to be damaged at all. Sulen casually threw a lightning spear, but as the lightning flashed and the lightning energy dissipated, the silver-white gate in front of him didn't move at all. There wasn't even a mark on it. Seeing this, a trace of surprise flashed in Sulen's eyes, but in the next second, the storm halberd appeared in his hand. Lightning spear. The dazzling lightning instantly shrouded the storm halberd, and as a large amount of lightning merged, an invisible torrent of energy quickly gathered around Sulen. The storm halberd was originally completely covered by lightning, and the powerful lightning energy spread to the surroundings, forcing Hathaway and the others to move out of the way. Sulen's warrior robe was also propped up by the static electricity, and more lightning energy was injected into the storm halberd. The powerful energy gathered, and magic weapons that were slightly inferior in quality almost fell apart under this pressure. Even the storm halberd, a legendary weapon, was trembling slightly. It was obviously close to its limit. In the end, the storm halberd that had gathered infinite power was lifted up by Sulen, and in the next second, it fiercely pierced the silver-white metal gate in front of him. Crack! Rumble! The deafening thunder sounded, and the entire wizard tower shook violently, and a powerful energy exploded in an instant. When the light dissipated, the gate in front of them had been completely blown open, and there was a big hole in the gate. Ding! The energy domain has disappeared. The effect of energy imprisonment has been weakened. Sulen panted for a moment, and then directly entered the gate with the storm halberd. On the platform in the center of the hall, a crystal ball was constantly emitting a faint light. It was the host crystal of the tower spirit. Just as Sulen stepped forward and was about to close it, a huge roar came from the other side of the hall. Chapter 545. Bang! Sullen's vision went dark, and he subconsciously swept the storm war halberd across. A huge force came, and he felt as if he had hit steel, and his palm was slightly numb. The black shadow flew backward and quickly stabilized. Only then did Sulen see clearly that it was a strange high-level golem in front of him. Countless runes were engraved on its body, and the light purple magic patterns were like tattoos all over the golem. The golem was 6 meters tall, and its appearance was similar to that of a human. From its appearance, it was obvious that it was a legendary golem, and it was very likely that it had been modified. Guardian activated. Carry out the third battle plan, eliminate all intruders. The golem's eyes flashed red, and it completely locked onto Sulen. Then, a cold mechanical voice sounded. Elemental fission shield activated. Aura/activated. Weakness detection activated. Silver holy sword, legendary, charged. Armor break activated. Sharpness activated. Greater haste activated. With the cold mechanical voice, a huge beheading sword with a silver glow appeared in the golem's hand. Under Suren's dumbfounded expression, the legendary construct in front of him instantly entered the complete state. Don't interfere. I'll deal with it. Sulen immediately said when he saw the golem. This thing was obviously a high-level legendary golem, a killing machine specially used to guard the core of the wizard tower. Apart from Sulen, no one else could withstand this thing's combat power. Greater haste, maximum spell. Greater displacement force field, maximum spell. Greater bear's toughness, maximum spell. Greater bull's strength, maximum spell. Greater fox's cunning, maximum spell. Legendary mage's armor, maximum spell. Weakness detection. A series of spells rose from Sullen's body. Hathaway, Karina, and Alex quickly cast all kinds of spells on Sulen. A bright sword light illuminated Sullen's eyes, and the 6-meter-tall guardian statue in the tower instantly appeared in front of Sulen. The silver sword instantly chopped towards Sullen's neck. Sulen had several energy barriers in front of him, but they were shattered by the guardian golem's sword beam. Finally, they were blocked by the storm battle halberd. The guardian's speed was very fast, and his tall body was unexpectedly agile. The speed of his sword was so fast that it left behind a series of afterimages, slashing towards Sullen's vital parts. Sulen didn't show any weakness. He kept waving the storm halberd in his hand, and his figure moved quickly like a ghost. Bang bang bang. The storm battle halberd and the silver sacred sword kept colliding, and a series of sparks kept appearing. In a short period of time, Sulen and the guardian golem had exchanged dozens of blows. Powerful energy surged in the surroundings. The energy barriers on Sullen's body were all shattered, and even the legendary mage's armor was damaged. The guardian golem wasn't any better. The energy barriers on the surface of its body had dimmed, and scars from the storm battle halberd appeared on its silver body. Thunder slash. Dazzling lightning instantly erupted from Sullen's body, and the storm battle halberd slashed towards the guardian golem with the power of endless lightning. The dazzling lightning completely enveloped the guardian golem's tall body, and a deafening thunder rumbled. In the next second, the guardian golem's tall figure was sent flying. The elemental fission shield that originally covered its body was completely shattered, and the storm battle halberd left a deep mark on the guardian golem's body. Sullen's figure flashed, and in the next second, he appeared beside the guardian golem. The storm battle halberd waved like a windmill and continuously attacked, forcing the guardian golem, who had just stabilized its body, to retreat. What are you waiting for? Hathaway, go and deal with that tower genie. This legendary golem can't be dealt with in a short time. Okay, you hold it back. I'll go and crack the tower genie's core. Hathaway reacted quickly. Although she was shocked by the battle between Sulen and the golem, she recovered in an instant. Then, while Sulen was holding the golem back, she began to crack the tower genie's core. Bigby's flying palm. A huge palm appeared out of thin air, and then directly sent the golem flying. Before the guardian golem could stand firm, Sullen's attack had come again. High-grade legendary golems were very difficult to deal with. This thing had high attack, high defense, fast speed, and surprisingly high magic resistance. Although Sulen was confident that he could tear it down, it would take a long time. This kind of legendary construct golem could be said to have almost no weaknesses. Sulen didn't want to tear this thing down. After all, not everyone could make a high-level legendary golem. The owner of this wizard tower was at least a high-level legendary existence. A golem of this level could be said to be very precious, and Sulen couldn't bear to break it. Even Su Luan could only suppress the guardian golem in front of him. Moreover, this guardian golem was also equipped with the sword saint's skills. If an advanced legendary warrior were in his place, the guardian golem would have long since finished him off. If this thing attacked at full strength, it wouldn't be surprising if it killed legendary Sulen in one strike. In fact, the guardian golem hadn't used its full strength yet. After all, golems made by wizards often needed the assistance of wizards. If it had the cooperation of a legendary wizard, it wouldn't have been a problem to directly kill the Baylor. Aura slash. After seeing Hathaway begin to break the core of the tower spirit, the guardian golem seemed to be anxious. It no longer defended against Sullen's attack. A silver-white sword aura instantly appeared on the 3-meter-long silver-white giant sword in its hand. The sharp sword aura seemed to tear through time and space, and it slashed fiercely toward Sulen. Boom! Sulen didn't back down. If he pushed it away, Hathaway would be in danger. The light blue thunder turned into a thunder snake and collided with the sword aura. Then, it disappeared. The guardian golem's body flashed, and in the next second, a sword aura burst out in an instant. Sword storm. The sword aura was activated, and the tall guardian golem quickly waved the silver sword aura. At this moment, the entire golem turned into a monster that was cutting at high speed. Sullen's face changed, and he subconsciously wanted to leave. However, just as his body was about to move, he immediately reacted. The thunder power in his body instantly poured into his body, and endless thunder continued to explode. Lightning flashed in all directions, and the sound of metal clashing rang out. Su Luan firmly blocked the guardian golem, but in the face of such a powerful attack, Su Luan was in a somewhat sorry state. The legendary mage armor on his body had completely disappeared, and even his clothes had become like that of a beggar. Chapter 546. The golems immediately stopped attacking. The guardian golem that was attacking suddenly stopped, and the red light in its 2 crystal eyes disappeared. Su Luan also breathed a sigh of relief. Hathaway, ask the tower genie where the core of the puzzle is located, Su Len said in a deep voice. Tower genie, where is the core of the puzzle? The core of the puzzle is at the top of the wizard tower, the tower genie said in a cold mechanical voice. Hathaway was a little confused. Isn't this the top of the wizard tower? Master, this is the 2nd floor of the wizard tower. There is another floor above it, the tower genie continued. This place was built with a spatial folding magic circle. I see. Hathaway nodded and asked the tower genie to open the door. They walked directly to the top of the wizard tower. The top of the wizard tower covered a large area. As soon as they arrived, they saw an enlarged puzzle magic circle. Purple arcane crystals floated quietly in the air. There were countless runes engraved on these crystals. A few silver light beams passed through each arcane crystal. These light beams crisscrossed back and forth like a fishing net, and those arcane crystals were the nodes of the net. Countless runes were engraved on the ground. These runes corresponded to the arcane crystals in the air. The top of the room was also engraved with a large number of runes. Purple gems were embedded in the ceiling, looking like twinkling stars in the night sky. In the center of the room was an elemental pool with a diameter of 5 meters. At this time, there was only a shallow layer of energy water left in the elemental pool. Because it had not been maintained for a long time, many of the runes on the elemental pool had been peeled off and damaged. Naturally, the energy extracted from the 4 elemental realms was gradually decreasing. The blue crystal that was originally floating above the elemental pool had also become dim. They could not help but worry about whether it would fall in the next second. The arcane crystals in the air were like a fishing net. In the end, all the silver light beams were connected to the crystal in front of them. This crystal was the core of the puzzle. Apart from Hathaway, Su Luan, Alex, and Karina were all confused about the riddle. They had no idea how to solve the riddle in front of them. Although Hathaway had mastered the puzzle lock technology, it was her first time seeing a puzzle lock. Fortunately, this puzzle lock had been in operation for thousands of years. No one maintained it. At the same time, its energy had been depleted. Otherwise, it would not be easy to gain control of this puzzle lock. Hathaway stepped forward and a silver glow appeared in her eyes. She tapped the blue crystal gently and a faint ripple spread out from the crystal. Then, a silver glow rose from Hathaway's body. This silver radiance was the embodiment of Hathaway's soul power. Sullen's soul power was now pale gold because he had fused with a large amount of divinity. At this time, whether it was Hathaway or Su Lan, their souls actually already had some immortal characteristics. The lifespan of a legendary wizard was several times longer than that of a legendary warrior. Apart from the fact that wizards could make potions to increase their lifespan, the biggest reason was their soul power. If one only looked at the body of a legendary warrior, they were obviously healthier and more energetic than a wizard. However, the aging of their soul would cause their body to gradually age. On the other hand, wizards were the exact opposite. Hathaway's soul power entered a special space. This space was a huge magic network made up of countless magic nodes. This magic network completely covered the entire ruins. As Hathaway's soul power continued to crack the magic network, one by one, the magic nodes on the magic network were broken and controlled by Hathaway. A huge amount of soul power extended along the entire network. After an unknown amount of time, all the magic nodes were under her control. Hathaway slowly opened her eyes, and a feeling of weakness gushed out of her body. She staggered and was about to fall to the ground. Su Luan's eyes were sharp, and his hands were quick, and he caught her. "How are you? Are you hurt?" Su Lan asked a little anxiously. Hathaway struggled to smile at Su Lan. A touch of exhaustion appeared on her face. "I'm fine. It's just that my soul power has been overused. I'll be fine after some rest. Don't worry. This puzzle is seriously low on energy. Use an energy bottle to replenish it." "Okay." Su Luan nodded and handed Hathaway over to Karina and Alex to take care of. He then took out a palm-sized, beautiful crystal bottle from his storage space and walked to the elemental pool. He opened the cap of the crystal bottle and poured it into the elemental pool. A light blue elemental water slowly flowed out of the bottle. The concentration of elemental water in the room suddenly increased by more than 2 times. The light blue elemental water quickly fell. Soon, a thin layer of elemental water gathered in the almost dry elemental pool. The crystal bottle in Sullen's hand continued to pour the elemental water into the pool. This crystal bottle was an energy bottle made by Hathaway. It could collect the elemental water that overflowed from the elemental pool every day. Since many of the facilities in the Northwind Tower were not complete, the amount of elemental water produced every day far exceeded the Wizard Tower's daily consumption. To avoid wastage, Hathaway specially made some energy bottles. Although the energy bottle in front of Abel was only the size of a palm, it was made with a special spatial technique. The amount of elemental water stored in the bottle could fill up the entire elemental pool. Usually, a portion of the elemental water collected by these energy bottles would be used as energy reserves, while the other portion would be stored as experimental materials. Soon, as more and more elemental water was poured out of the bottle, the elemental pool began to rise at a speed visible to the naked eye. After about half an hour, the elemental pool was completely filled. Chapter 547. Tower Genie, restore the Enigma state and cancel the energy-saving mode, Hathaway ordered after seeing that the elemental pool was full of energy. Then a ray of spiritual light slowly lit up, and the originally dim purple crystal shone brightly at this moment. The spiritual light quickly spread to the surroundings along with the silver light beams. In a flash, the arcane crystals in the air were lit up one by one. The magic gems on the ceiling also lit up slightly, flashing a little bit of starlight. A strange force quickly spread out from here and shrouded the entire ruins in an instant. Outside the ruins that were originally filled with fog suddenly dissipated slowly, and a strange energy swept across. The layer of crumbling camouflage outside the ruins instantly solidified, and at the same time, a spatial force quickly spread out. If one were to look at it from a distance, one would find that the space suddenly looked like a stone thrown into a pool, with countless ripples. If one were to stare at it closely, one would find that with the ripples, the space began to slowly fold, and for a moment, there were countless phantoms, which made one dizzy, but then the phantoms were quickly smoothed out, and finally returned to its original state. Although it seemed that there was no change, in fact, the secret realm had been completely hidden. It's done. If we don't use the power of the Enigma now, the elemental water in the elemental pool can last for a month. Hathaway was not as tired as before after a short rest. The elemental pool here needs to be repaired as soon as possible, and there are other energy channels and rune inscription problems. The things in the ruins also need to be sorted out and repaired as soon as possible. I think we'll face the consequences of being understaffed for a long time. Why wouldn't you want a wizard tower from the Arcane Empire era? Su Len teased and winked at Hathaway, and it could be a floating space tower. By the way, this wizard tower is indeed built according to the floating space tower. Hathaway's eyes lit up, and she directly asked the Tower Genie, this wizard tower can fly, activate the flight mode. Master, the floating space tower has insufficient energy, the flight mode cannot be activated, the Tower Genie's cold mechanical voice sounded. Are the floating space ring and other facilities damaged? Hearing the Tower Genie's words, Hathaway's eyes lit up, and she instantly became energetic. She quickly sat up straight on Alex's body, and there was no trace of her previous weak appearance. The wizard tower is the core area of the entire secret realm. The floating space ring is well preserved, and other overall facilities' damage rate is less than 70%. It needs to be repaired before it can fly, the Tower Genie said coldly. The virtual library of the Sorcerer Tower has the blueprints and information for the construction of the Sorcerer Tower. There is a perfectly preserved floating ring here, Hathaway said in pleasant surprise. The floating space ring was the core component of the floating space tower that could fly. If the floating space city was compared to an airplane, the elemental pool was the fuel tank that provided sufficient energy, and the floating space ring was the engine that provided energy for the airplane. The floating space ring was a glorious achievement of the Arcane Empire era. It could lift the floating space tower, which weighed hundreds of tons, into the sky and fly freely. It could be said to be a very powerful legendary rune. It contained a lot of mathematical Olympiad knowledge. Hathaway only had some incomplete knowledge. Now there was a preserved floating space ring and information, which was good news for Hathaway. Master, you'd better not activate the flight mode, the Tower Genie suddenly reminded her. Why? Hathaway asked with some surprise. The core command left by the previous master was to suppress the thing sealed under the wizard tower. Once the wizard tower takes off, the Enigma won't be able to suppress the seal, and the monster will soon break the seal. Su Len and Hathaway looked at each other, and immediately thought of the future she saw not long ago using astrology. "What's sealed here?" Sulen asked. The tower genie did not respond to Sulen's question. Seeing that the tower genie ignored him, Sulen was a little embarrassed. "Tower genie, adjust Sulen's authority to the highest." Hathaway was like a little fox who had stolen a chicken, and her beautiful big eyes curved into a crescent moon. "Yes, master." Recording soul fluctuations, backing up information, recording complete. "Tower genie, what's sealed under the wizard tower?" Sulen asked again. "Your Excellency, I don't have the authority to know the monster sealed under the wizard tower. According to the 70th resolution of the Supreme Arcane Parliament, this arcane realm is sealed, and the previous master was also imprisoned by the Arcane Parliament. For specific information, you can check the information left by the previous master." Sulen and Hathaway's faces became serious. It was obvious that the monster sealed below was a taboo, and they learned from the tower genie that the previous master was actually imprisoned by the Supreme Arcane Parliament. What did this predecessor do? He actually made the Supreme Arcane Parliament intervene directly. The Supreme Arcane Parliament was the highest ruling core of the Arcane Empire. Although the Arcane Empire was called an empire, it was actually a floating space city that was autonomous. The supreme leader of each floating space city was basically a Grand Arcanist, and each floating space city had a seat in the Supreme Arcane Parliament. Usually, everyone did their own thing and did not interfere with each other. Only when a major event occurred, all the floating space city would convene a meeting of the Supreme Arcane Parliament to discuss and make decisions. Although this parliament had great power in name, in reality, it did not care much. The previous master of this wizard tower actually made the Supreme Arcane Parliament take action personally. Sulen was curious about what he did at that time. Soon, Sulen asked the tower genie to pull out a set of experimental data and began to check it with Hathaway. Arcane calendar, year 3953, spring, some of the items in the laboratory have been exhausted. Last month, I traded with the dimensional merchant and spent a lot of money and resources. Suddenly, I found that the money left was not enough to buy materials this month. Forget it, I'll go to the astral world to collect it myself. Year 3958 of the arcane calendar, spring. My luck is really good. I found an area rich in materials in the astral plane. It only took me 3 days to collect enough materials to last me 2 months. I'm going to finish collecting here before going back. Arcane calendar, year 3958, spring, praise the goddess of luck. Today is my lucky day. I swear, today is more exciting than when I was promoted to legendary. I actually found the body of an ancient god in the astral world. I dare say that this is definitely the greatest discovery in the astral world in the last few hundred years. Divinity, artifact, I'm going to become a Grand Arcanist. Chapter 548. Arcane Calendar Year 3958, Summer. The laboratory I prepared for the ancient god's corpse is finally completed. Next, I can study this corpse without any worries. I can't wait. Arcane Calendar Year 3958, Summer. The first experiment was a success. I'm a genius. I successfully extracted a bit of divinity from the corpse. This pure golden power looks really charming. Next, I'll try to go into seclusion and completely integrate this divinity into my body. Arcane Calendar Year 3958, Summer. Damn it, the consciousness left by the ancient god is too powerful. It took me half a month to successfully integrate this divinity into my body. Although the process was a bit tortuous, the result was great. After integrating this divinity, I clearly felt a crack in the previous bottleneck. It seems that my idea was right. Autumn, year 3958 of the arcane calendar. Something was not right. There was a different kind of energy in this god's corpse. This energy was entangled with the god's corpse, and they seemed to be showing signs of revival. What the hell? Could it be that this god's corpse, which had been dead for thousands of years, could be revived? Arcane Calendar Year 3958, Winter. Incredible. The power of divinity is really amazing. It has the power to turn something rotten into something magical. I can use it to make a divine artifact. Materials, I want all kinds of rare materials. I want to make a divine artifact that belongs to me. Arcane Calendar Year 3958, Winter. Something seems to be wrong. I feel that my consciousness is affected. The number of times I've been angry has obviously increased. Just this morning, I scolded my favorite disciple, Flender. He actually stopped me from absorbing the divinity. Arcane Calendar Year 3959, Spring. The weather today is good. Just now, I successfully broke through level 30 and reached level 31. Now, I'm an astral mage. Also, the power in the corpse has become stronger. I need to find a way to suppress it. Arcane Calendar Year 3959, Spring. Damn it, this is not the original power of the corpse. This power is parasitic in the corpse. It wants to use the corpse of the god to revive. The corpse of the god is mine. I won't let anyone take it away. Arcane Calendar Year 3959, Spring. This power is too strong. I can't suppress it anymore. It's starting to change. I have to find a way to deal with it as soon as possible. Arcane Calendar Year 3959, Spring. Why did the Supreme Arcane Council send a document for inquiry? Could it be that they knew I had obtained the god's corpse? That's impossible. No, I forgot about Flender. That damned bastard, he actually dared to betray his teacher. I'll extract his soul and seal it in the lamp so that his soul will be burned forever. But before that, I have to hide the god's corpse somewhere else. Year 3959 of the Arcana Calendar, Spring. Those annoying special envoys from the Supreme Arcana Council came. He actually said that I was researching the power of the divine sin and violated the ban of the Supreme Arcana Council. What ban? These guys don't understand the greatness of divinity at all. They just covet my god corpse and want to take it from me. I should just chase them out. Arcana Calendar, Year 3959, Spring. The vitality and life force of the god's corpse are getting stronger and stronger. I have to suppress it as soon as possible. Fortunately, I had the help of the Wizard Tower. With the help of the Wizard Tower's power, I successfully suppressed him. Perhaps I should change my way of thinking. Year 3959 of the Arcana Calendar, Spring. Why is the Supreme Arcana Council here again? There's no end to it. This time, I won't meet with them. Negotiating with them is a complete waste of time. The log came to an abrupt end here. Although the log wasn't long and there was a lot of repeated information in it, Sulen still found the information about the thing sealed under the floating space tower. It seems that things are a little troublesome. Sulen closed the experiment log, and the expression on his face became a little gloomy. According to the information in the log, the previous master of the Wizard Tower was basically dead, but it was unknown whether he was killed by the Divine Sin or by the Supreme Arcana Council. Of course, Sulen was more likely to be arrested by the Supreme Arcana Council. If he was killed by the Divine Sin, then basically nothing would be left in the ruins. Now that the Wizard Tower was intact, it was very likely that it was done by the Supreme Arcana Council. Moreover, through the conversation with the Tower Spirit, he found that the seal here was made by the Supreme Arcana Mathematical Association. After the seal was completed, the Supreme Arcana Council gave up on the secret realm, and everyone was completely evacuated. That was also the reason why the buildings in the secret realm were so intact. Sulen deduced the matter in his mind and was surprised by the previous master of the Wizard Tower's ability to seek death. Not to mention that this guy directly sees the divinity from the god's corpse. He didn't even figure out the divine sin bred in the god's corpse. The divine sin was always born from the god's corpse, and the probability of such things happening was very high. Moreover, he didn't extract the soul of the divine sin to fuse with it after killing it. He was really courageous. He wasn't swallowed up by the negative consciousness of the divine sin, but judging from the experiment log, he was still affected. The ancient arcanists were really bold, and Sulan had to admire them. These arcanists were not even in awe of the gods. Otherwise, how could the Arthas Ascension be created? They actually wanted to seize the power of the gods by force. The ancient arcanists conducted too many dangerous experiments, such as bloodline experiments. Although Sulan didn't conduct in-depth research, the experiment was finally mature after hundreds and thousands of human experiments. In essence, the wizards of today were not much different from the ancient arcanists. They also liked to seek death. The only difference was that after being beaten up, the wizards of today were very cautious and knew how to respect the gods. It was not a big problem for the wizards to have enough curiosity. The key was to know their own strength. If they wanted to study the divine sin, their profession level had to be at least level 40. After all, the divine sin's challenge rating was as high as level 35. Without enough power to suppress the divine sin, it would be suicidal to study it. It seems that there's a high possibility that the divine sin below was born from the god's corpse. However, I don't know how much power this divine sin has left after thousands of years. Sulan held his chin with one hand and rhythmically tapped the table with the other. After being sealed for a long time in an environment with a lack of elements, the power of the divine sin would also decline. If it was at its peak, Sulan definitely wouldn't stay. He would turn around and run without hesitation. After all, it was too difficult to kill, and he might accidentally send himself into the divine sin. You're tuning in to the Unparalleled SwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.